So the reason I wanted to do this assembly, and even though about, say, 40 of you said you wanted this assembly, I think actually all of us in this room are at a different stage in our revision. Some of us, we know what we are doing and we think we have something that works. But some of us haven't even started yet and we don't know how to get started. But I think regardless of where you're at, with regard to your revision, you should be able to take something away from what I'm about to tell you. I think it will probably take me about 20 minutes. The reason I've asked you to bring kind of an exercise book is I'd like you to take some active notes. I don't want you to try and write down everything I'm going to say because it's not pertinent for all of you. I would like you to think about what I'm saying, and anything you think, I need to try that, I need to do it, just make a note of it. Yeah, actively engage with what I'm saying. This is kind of like a lecture style-y presentation. This is how probably you'll get taught at college, or if you stay here at sixth form, it's more likely how you'll get taught here. And it will definitely, if you go on to university, this is how you'll be taught, with little interaction. So I'm just going to try and go through it quickly rather than doing kind of a modelling workshop or something like that. So there are many reasons. Admittedly, you will revise less for this set of mocks than you will for the real thing. But some of you may feel that for some reason that you're not going to revise for this set of mocks at all. And there are many reasons why students get blocked for exams and blocked for revision. Yeah, revision is boring. I can't take that away from revision. It is boring. Yeah, and there's not much. There are things that you can do to make it more variety, but there's not a lot you can do to take away the boredom. Yeah, some students look at the mocks and they say to themselves, I know, why don't I see what I can do without any revision, and then I know if I do some revision, I'll do better. And that is probably the stupidest way to think about mock exams, because you're going to learn nothing from that experience. Yeah, if you don't revise, you'll do worse than normal, I can tell you that. Yeah, so please don't think that you somehow miraculously you've got this grand plan and you know better about doing no revision and then find out what you get without doing no revision. It never works. Yeah, you will have just wasted a whole set of mocks if you have that approach, because you won't do as well as you could if you don't do some revision. So please don't have that mentality. You don't know best. Revision is challenging, okay? If you're doing revision correctly, you should find it is not that easy. And sometimes it can feel that it's overwhelming. Additionally, you may have distractions. And I kind of do feel sorry for you guys, is that when I was doing my GCSEs a long time ago, there was no internet. Yeah, there was no social media, mobile phones didn't exist yet. And you have these huge amount of distractions in your home that can distract you from a revision that is more interesting. Yeah, and all I can say is you're just going to have to use your resilience and try and kind of regulate yourself to avoid those distractions. If you want to play your Xbox, can you put it downstairs? Or could you have a certain time in the evening or at the weekend that you limit yourself to doing those things? And it's going to take that maturity to kind of manage that. Yeah, you will be distracted and you're going to have to self-regulate and avoid those distractions. No one can do that for you. Yeah, you're getting too old for your parents to be doing that for you. Even though I did work in a school in Dubai and a parent smashed up their child's Xbox with a hammer before revision. And I'm hoping that won't happen for any of you. Some of you may find revision overwhelming, and that probably will happen, I reckon, for this set of mocks. Yeah, you might sit down to do some revision, realise you've got 2.5 weeks left before the actual exams, and then you'll just go, wow, I just haven't got enough time. And that's probably going to happen, but you don't want that to happen in the real thing. For lots of you, you don't know where to start. Yeah, where do I start? I've got multiple different subjects. They're all assessing different things. I've got multiple different papers, all at different times. I just don't know where to begin. Okay, and I can help you with that today. And that's something you can probably do something today if you wanted to get started with your revision. And some of you don't know how to. I can see lots of you. Some of you bring flashcards to your lessons. Yeah, amazing. Okay, and you're starting to make flashcards in lessons. So you look like you're using a flashcard system to help you revise, which is brilliant. Yeah, real independence. No one is telling you to do that. You've been given some flashcards and you're starting to use them in lessons. And I'll tell you how you can use flashcards if flashcards is your chosen method. Okay, so these are strategies that don't work. So if you're doing any of these things, I would suggest for this set of mocks, you try something different. Yeah. Copying out notes, okay? Just copying stuff doesn't work. So for example, if you own one of these, so any revision guide, I just pick science, and you'll just copy in pages of this, that is not effective revision. It is a waste of your time, and there is better ways. Even though it feels comfortable, there is better ways of revising. Yeah? Cramming, leaving it to the last minute, and historically, this is like a boy thing. Yeah? Often boys, men, we leave things to the last minute and we blitz revision, and generally that's not as effective as taking a long period of time with breaks in between and a really carefully thought out process up to the exams. So please do not cram, even though I reckon towards this set of mocks there's probably going to be a bit of cramming if you haven't started already and you realise you've actually got a lot to do. Rereading stuff, just reading stuff without any other activity is pretty pointless as well. Doesn't really have an effect on your long-term memory. Highlighting for no reason. Sometimes, you know, we start highlighting and we're just doing like pages and pages just because highlighting looks nice, looks like we're effective. Not effective. Multitasking while revising, and this is, like from my experience, this is something I really struggled with. I had to listen to music to revise, and then actually as you get closer to the exam you'd be like, actually I'm not learning anything anymore because I've just got music that I know the lyrics to and I can hear them in my head, and yet I'm trying to commit stuff to my long-term memory, and in the end I just learned I've just got to revise in silence, yeah, in a quiet room, and then it's more effective, and then I have to spend less time revising if I'm revising more effectively, if that makes sense. And then comfort zone, yeah, so for me my comfort zone would be to revise biology because that is my chosen subject, and actually when I was doing my GCSEs I hated revising history because I think I just fell out of love with it, but I still had to get a GCSE in it, so it was actually I need to prioritise my history revision because it's what I'm least into, and maybe I'll do it when I'm fresh in the morning, and then I'll save my biology to later when I'm not so fresh. Okay, so these 4 strategies, I would call them passive revision. Yeah, passive. You're not actively engaged or thinking hard when you're doing any of these things, so you're not committing those to your long-term memory. Yeah, it's just passive. So I would, and the reason we like doing these things is because they're easy. And we've said before, revision shouldn't be easy. It should be challenging if it's effective. Okay, so please, if those are your chosen methods, please try something else for this round of mocks. Okay, so what does active revision look like? So some of you are doing active note-taking. You're writing down things, you're thinking about what I'm saying, and you're writing down things that are relevant. So active revision should go through kind of 4 steps. Okay, you need to find out what you need to revise, and this will be personal to all of you. Yeah? You need to work out when you should revise and what that structure will be. And we know that Miss Taylor-Wareham, for 33 of you in this room, she's taught you how to do a revision timetable. So already some of you have worked out when to revise, probably. And then the rest of you, hopefully, because you didn't go to that session, you probably know you might have made a timetable anyway. Maybe, maybe not. And for some of you, this is key, is how do you do it? Lots of you with your flashcards, do you have a strategy for creating flashcards and then using them? Because what is revision? Revision is committing stuff to your long-term memory that you already know, or theoretically you've already seen, but at the same time we need to add a layer onto just knowing stuff is actually how to perform well in exams. And I've been talking to some of you already, and there is definitely, you've got 1, 2, 3, they're all licked, but actually it's 4 that really tips you over into being successful at GCSE exams. It is practice papers, practice questions, looking at mark schemes. And then you will start to see the patterns. You will know when you read a question exactly what it's asking and what are the strategies to answering it correctly. And I know on an individual subject basis, you go into all sorts of subjects and teachers are telling you strategies. Yeah, they're telling you strategies how to answer a history essay. You've got your strategies for writing good paragraphs in English, okay, but that's kind of me being on the surface. So what do these things look like? So what to revise, you need to work out what your weaknesses are. So you need some sort of checklist. Yeah, so there are many checklists you can get hold of. You can get hold of a specification if you go to your exam board. A specification is what do teachers use to create your lessons. So this is a specification for a unit that you're probably all doing it in science, and this is what teachers use so they know what to teach you. So if you get hold of a specification, your teachers will tell you where to get them. You can use that as a checklist, and this is what I used to do for my exams. I would get the specification and I would just tick off bits that I'd revise until I'd done the whole thing. okay? But for some of you, that must seem like a lot of words. So this might be like 40 pages long, or even more for science, yeah? 3 sciences maybe, okay? But if you've got one of these, for any of your subjects, there is a really handy checklist right here, the contents page. You could go through the contents page, just highlighting either the things that you can do or the bits that you're weak at, and you will focus on those first. Or, last year, most subjects provided checklists, and you just need to ask your teachers, can you give me a checklist for the mocks? And your teachers will say, yes, I did that last year. Here it is on Google Classrooms. So this, if you don't know where to start with your revision and you haven't started, find out your weak areas today. Sit down with a revision guide, sit down with a specification, get a checklist off your teacher, because that's where you should go first, yeah? And that will help you springboard, right, okay, I've actually got something, I know what I need to do. I need to look at, I don't know, enzymes, or I need to look at Elizabethan history, I don't know, something like that, yeah? Okay, when to revise, you need a revision timetable. And for some of you, like I said, you might start to get in the panic zone when you realise how much you've actually got to go through. But it should be specific, it should be time bonded, and you should be using half term effectively. I know most of us will be having a break, but for you guys this year, a lot of your holidays are going to be good time to actually get your head down and do some revision. Additionally, when should you revise? You should make sure that you revisit something more than once, particularly those weak areas. Don't just go, oh yeah, enzymes, done that, won't look at it again. The more you revisit something, so this blue line represents forgetting. So that every time you review something, yeah, the more likely it is to stay in your long-term memory. So you should repeat. Yeah, we call that the forgetting curve. Yeah, cognitive science. Yeah, and how? Okay, so there are many ways of revising, but what you've got to make sure is that, I think of like this little curly arrow, like in your short-term memory. So you're all thinking with your short-term memory at the moment, you're pulling down from your long-term memory to understand what I'm saying, but all of you are kind of, imagine it's like buffering, you know when you're like, you know when Netflix buffers like this, or Amazon buffers like this, it's thinking, yeah? That's what you need to be doing with your revision. You need to be buffering, not copying, because there would be no buffering, you'd just be writing down. You need to be what I would call processing. So what there is, this is information, isn't it? Or something you've got to learn, and at the moment, if you just copy that, there's been no processing. Processing means you take this and you make it different. And if you take this and make it different, you've processed it and you've thought hard about it, which is more likely for it to go into your long-term memory. Therefore, there are many ways. Some of you are using flashcards to process information. Yeah, you're taking your revision guide, you're taking your notes, you're taking Seneca, and somehow you're putting that on a flashcard. Hopefully, again, you're not just copying chunks of this onto a flashcard. That would be not a good use of a flashcard. You need to be reducing what's on here into a flashcard, focusing on those weak areas, using diagrams to represent text. Anything like that on a flashcard would be a good flashcard. So there are lots of ways in which you can process information. Yeah, so that means different. Things that I like, obviously I'm a scientist, love diagrams, quite like a Venn diagram for differences, got timelines, history, I don't know, flow diagrams, mind maps, something. These could be ways of reducing what you need to know and processing it. So you have to think hard to organise something. And the brain loves, we call these graphic organisers, so visual organisers, your brain loves that stuff. Yeah, your brain loves that stuff. Okay, so these are things, and obviously I'll share this with you, and it's going home to your parents, this set of slides. These are things that you could do, and some of you do them already. But lots of you choose flashcards, don't you? Okay, lots of you do flashcards. So flashcards are great, and as long as you're processing information onto your flashcard, you usually got a prompt, haven't you? And then the answer is on the back. That's usually how they work. And then you'll build up a stack. Yeah, so when I was your age, and when I went to university, I kind of developed the technique I'm going to tell you just on my own. I just thought, well, actually, I'm making all these flashcards. There must be a strategy to using them effectively. And so what I would do is I'd, when I got my A-levels, my A-level biology would be like that. And so I'd have them, and I'd probably do it into units or into papers, paper 1, paper 2, paper 3. And then I'd just go through them, asking myself questions, what's on the back, and I'd have a keep pile for the stuff I didn't know, and I'd have a discard pile for the stuff I didn't know. And what I would do is I'd keep going back to my keep pile, going through it, and eventually my discard pile will get bigger and my keep pile will get smaller, and then I'll go back to the beginning until, so all the time, more stuff will be going into my long-term memory, and I had a like visual cue. My keep pile is going down. This is the stuff I know. This is the stuff I don't know. This is the stuff I know. Yeah, that's how, and I just worked that out for myself. Took me until I was like 22 till I was able to do that. I worked that, but here you've got a shortcut. You could do the way I've just described to you, or there is something called 3 boxes. So this is, you could, if you wanted to, get a shoebox and portion it up into 5 bits or 3 bits. And what you do is, instead of having a keep and discard pile, if you don't know something, you leave it in a box when you go through it, in box 1. So all your flashcards are in box 1, yeah? You go through them. Any that you get correct, you move on into box 2, yeah? And then you keep box 1. And then you keep doing that, but you review box 1 more often, yeah? And the further they go through a box, the less often you review them, because they're probably in your long-term memory. So you could reduce it to 3 boxes. Box 1 you do every day, box 2 you do every 3 days, and box 3 every 10 days. I don't think last year I taught this, and I don't think anyone did it, which is fine, but I'm just giving you, there are ways. If you prefer my way, discard, keep, because it doesn't require boxes, but if you want super structure that works, then this will help get stuff into your long-term memory. Yeah, so a way of using your flashcards. So then the last thing that I'm going to talk about is probably where maybe 50% of you are. You've got your system, you've got no problem with acquiring long-term memory, but where you struggle is in exams. Yeah, you walk into an exam, you read what's in front of you, and it's all just, you know, you write some stuff and then you get feedback from like your teacher and it's like, well, yeah, I just didn't get the question. I wrote some stuff, but I didn't really understand what it was asking, and I didn't have a strategy. I just couldn't see the wood for the trees. And what you need to be doing is you've got to apply what you've learned. So you need to get hold of questions and you need to answer them under exam conditions, and that is no good unless you have a mark scheme, because you have to mark what you've got, and then you'll learn from that marking process. You can't just do questions and not look at the correct answers, because certainly as questions get longer, more strategy is needed. They become more difficult, more challenging. So past paper questions, just ask your teachers. You could Google it if you wanted to, and you'll get past paper questions. Like exam board, I don't know, geography. So geography, what exam board are you doing in geography? Edexcel? So exam board, Edexcel, past paper questions, I reckon you'll get 3 past paper questions easy. And that'll go for any subject. Yeah, there's loads out there for science, but again, ask your teacher, can you get me some past paper questions? And try to be specific to your teachers, because you may think we just sit around drinking coffee. We are really busy people, and the more specific you can be about what you want, it's easier. Instead of just saying, give me some past papers on science, that just ends up being a mammoth task. But if you say to me, can you get me questions on, I don't know, hormones? I say, yeah, no problem. Okay, here's a link to some questions on hormones. Here's the mark scheme. That sort of activity for a teacher is easy. So make sure you see the mark scheme. Also, if you do like a revision guide, whoever your chosen company is for revision guides, like science will be like CGP, I think others do. They do these, and they do past papers. So if that's something you want, or if it's something maybe like expense-wise, you can like come and talk to us. And if it's something, this is like, I really want this, but you know we can't afford it, then come and talk to us, and we can arrange like to facilitate that for you. So, and I will just say, like, we are on your side and we want to help you. So just ask us. Don't be scared of us. If you want help and you want support and you want materials, we can do that for you, but we can't do your revision for you. Yeah, so it's up to you to do the revision. We can just facilitate, and your parents shouldn't be doing your revision for you. Lots of your parents, maybe they didn't, like my parents couldn't help me with revision because my parents haven't got no qualifications. Yeah, so they'd sit down and it's like, how can we help you? You can't, because you don't know anything. So that might be the same for some of you as well. So just ask, we will provide, but it's up to you now to actually do that revision.